Hey, weightlifting doc here. So I want to do a quick post talking about cortisol, stress, and the effect that can lead to type 2 diabetes. So when you get stressed out, there's a hormone that's produced by your adrenal cortex, which is your adrenal gland, part of your adrenal gland, and it's called cortisol. And cortisol gets a bad rap. It gets a bad rap as a bad hormone. It's not a bad hormone. It's just that if it's produced in excess and chronically, then it can cause a number of detrimental effects. So what we find in research is that if you have a chronic stress response, you're producing, again, excessive amounts of cortisol. And in addition to a number of other negative effects that it can have on you, like impairing memory and weight gain and a number of other things, impairing tissue repair, because it's an anti-inflammatory, which is good in small amounts, but in large amounts it prevents tissue repair because inflammation is the first stage of repair. But what I want to focus on is the blood sugar portion. What happens is excessive cortisol production will actually cause cells in your pancreas, they're called beta cells, they produce something called insulin. Insulin's a hormone that does a number of things. It's anabolic, but it also helps shuttle the glucose. It's one of its primary functions, if not its primary function, is to shuttle glucose into the cells. And so this hormone insulin is produced by these beta cells in the pancreas. Excessive cortisol production will actually cause those beta cells long-term to fail. And so you won't be able to produce insulin as effectively. Another thing they found with excessive cortisol production in research is that it definitively causes insulin resistance. Now, what insulin resistance is, even if you're making the insulin won't bind very well to the receptor. So you think of it like a lock and key mechanism. If it doesn't fit very well into the receptor, it's not binding well to the receptor, then it can't do its job, which what we're talking about, this specific job, is shuttling the glucose into the cells. And so what winds up happening, if the glucose doesn't get into the cells, you can't use that glucose for energy, which is your primary source of energy, but also it causes the high blood sugar. Now, one of the long-term effects of this, if you have high blood sugar, is it raises something called your HbA1c. And what that does is the red blood cells become glycated, and I won't go down this whole path, but these glucose molecules attach to it, and it can cause a number of health problems. The thing I want to focus on is stress reduction will cause decreased excess in cortisol production, which will prevent the failure of the beta pancreatic cells. It will also prevent the insulin resistance that cortisol causes. Now, things that will increase insulin sensitivity, which is the opposite of insulin resistance, are things like exercise, good diet. There's a number of other supplements that I'll talk about probably in another post that are helpful for blood sugar and glucose and HbA1c levels and things like that. And so this post is mainly focused on finding ways or encouraging you to find ways to control your stress responses, because again, that long-term cortisol will lead to type 2 diabetes if it's left unchecked. If you have any questions, let me know.